The space station, called Harmony Prime, floated in the darkness between stars. It was the largest station ever built. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species docked at its ports every day. Today was special. Today marked 200 years since the Galactic Peace Accords were signed. Ambassador Tai-Ho stood near the great window of the main hall. He watched ships arrive from distant worlds. Their lights blinked like fireflies against the black canvas of space. He was a tall man, with gray at his temples and calm eyes that had seen much. He had spent 30 years building peace between humanity and the galaxy. 30 years of careful words, patient smiles, and small victories. Hannah walked up beside him. She was younger, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She served as his aide, but everyone knew she was more than that. She gathered information. She watched. She listened. "Something is wrong," she said quietly. Tai-Ho did not turn from the window. "What do you see?" "Velen warships. Too many of them. They say it is an honor guard for their high sovereign, but I counted 47 vessels. That is not an honor guard. That is a fleet." The Velen Dominion was the oldest empire in the galaxy. They had ruled 1,000 worlds for 10,000 years. They looked down on younger species the way a mountain looks down on grass. Humanity had only traveled among the stars for 3 centuries. To the Velen, humans were children. Useful sometimes. Tolerable mostly. But never equals. "I reported my concerns to the station council," Hannah continued. "They smiled and told me not to worry. They said the Velen would never break the peace." "What do you believe?" Tai-Ho asked. "I believe powerful empires do not bring war fleets to birthday parties." Tai-Ho finally turned to look at her. He trusted Hannah with his life. She had never been wrong before. "Alert our people. Quietly. Tell them to be ready to move." The celebration began an hour later. The great hall filled with beings from across the galaxy. There were tall creatures with silver skin, small beings that floated on invisible wings, species with 4 arms, 6 eyes, or no eyes at all. Music played. Lights danced. Leaders gave speeches about friendship and cooperation. Tai-Ho sat with the human delegation. There were 42 of them. Diplomats, aides, their families. Some had brought their children to see the historic event. A little girl named Yuna sat near Tai-Ho. She was the daughter of his friend, Ambassador Jisoo. Yuna was 7 years old. She asked Tai-Ho why some aliens had blue skin. "'Cause the universe loves variety," Tai-Ho told her with a smile. "It would be boring if everyone looked the same," Yuna laughed. It was a beautiful sound. Do-yeon was the youngest member of their delegation. He was 23 and served as a communications officer. This was his first major assignment. He stood near the back of the hall, watching everything with wonder. He had dreamed of the stars since he was a boy. Now he was here, surrounded by beings from 100 worlds. High Sovereign Vorith of the Velen Dominion took the stage. He was massive, nearly 3 meters tall, with dark purple skin and eyes like burning coals. His voice boomed through the hall. "For 200 years, we have kept the peace," Vorith said. "We have welcomed new species into our community. We have shared our knowledge. We have been generous." Something in his tone made Tai-Ho uneasy. He looked at Hannah. She was already moving toward the exit, her hand touching the hidden communicator in her sleeve. "But generosity has limits," Vorith continued. "Some species forget their place. Some species grow too fast, reach too far, dream too big. Some species must be reminded of the natural order." The lights in the hall flickered. Tai-Ho stood. Everyone moved to the exits. "Now," his voice was calm but firm. The human delegation began to rise. But they were too slow. Everyone was too slow. The first explosion tore through the eastern wing of the station. The sound was deafening. The floor shook. People screamed. Through the great window, Tai-Ho saw Velen warships opening fire on the station. Chaos erupted. Beings ran in every direction. Velen soldiers in black armor poured through the doors. They carried weapons that glowed with deadly light. They did not ask questions. They did not take prisoners. They simply killed. Taiho grabbed Yuna and ran. He could hear Jisoo screaming behind him, then silence. He did not look back. He could not look back. Hannah appeared beside him. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. This way. There is an emergency shuttle in the lower deck. They ran through burning corridors. Bodies lay everywhere. Human, alien, old, young. The Velen soldiers killed without mercy. Taiho saw things that would haunt him forever. A mother trying to shield her children. An old diplomat begging for his life. A young aide crawling toward the door with broken legs. Doyon found them near the shuttle bay. His uniform was torn and his hands were shaking. They killed everyone, he whispered. Everyone in the communications center. I hid under a console. I watched them die. Stay with us, Taiho ordered. Stay focused. They reached the shuttle. It was small, meant for only 6 people. Taiho put Yuna inside first. Hannah took the pilot's seat. Doyon stumbled in behind them. As the shuttle door began to close, Taiho looked back one last time. Through the smoke and fire, he saw Vorath standing in the Great Hall. The High Sovereign was watching the destruction with a smile on his face. Their eyes met. Vorath raised one hand in a mocking wave. The shuttle launched into space. Behind them, Harmony Prime burned. Thousands of innocents died in flames and vacuum. The greatest symbol of galactic peace became a tomb. Hannah flew them through the battle. Velen ships fired at fleeing vessels. Most did not make it. Somehow, their small shuttles slipped through. When they were finally safe, when the burning station was just a distant light, Taiho sat in silence. Yuna had fallen asleep in his arms, exhausted from terror. Doyon stared at nothing. Hannah flew with tears running down her face. A message came through on all channels. Voras's voice filled their shuttle. Let this be a lesson to all young species. Know your place. Humanity's expansion ends today. Return to your single world and be grateful we let you live. He looked at the sleeping child in his arms. He thought of Jisoo. He thought of 40 colleagues who had laughed and talked just hours ago. He thought of children who would never grow up. Something changed in him. Something broke. Or perhaps something that had always been there finally woke up. He reached for the communication console and opened a channel to Earth. The voice was steady and cold. This is Ambassador. Taiho Harmony Prime has fallen. The Velen Dominion has murdered our people. They believe we are weak. They believe we will bow. He paused. They are wrong. Begin Protocol Fury. It is time to show the galaxy what humanity becomes when you take everything from us. The message ended. The shuttle flew on through the darkness, and somewhere deep in human space, ancient machines began to wake. The news reached Earth at 3 in the morning. Within minutes, every screen on the planet showed the burning ruins of Harmony Prime. People woke to images of death. They saw bodies floating in space. They heard the mocking words of High Sovereign Vorath. The world fell silent. Then it screamed in soul. Millions gathered in the streets. In New York, people wept openly. In Lagos, Cairo, Mumbai, and 1,000 other cities, humanity watched and understood. This was not politics. This was not a distant conflict. This was murder, pure and simple. Admiral Wuzhen was 67 years old. He had retired 5 years ago to a small house by the sea. He spent his days fishing and reading old books. He had fought in 3 wars during his career. He had hoped never to fight again. His phone rang at 4 in the morning. Admiral, this is President Park. I am sorry to wake you. I am already awake, Madam President. I have seen the news. Then you know why I am calling. Wuzhen closed his eyes. He thought of his grandchildren. He thought of the peaceful years he had enjoyed. He thought of the oath he had sworn long ago. Protocol Fury, he said quietly. Yes, we need you, Admiral. Humanity needs you. I will be at command within the hour. Wuzhen put on his uniform for the first time in 5 years. It still fit. Some things you never forget. deep beneath the mountains of an unnamed planet. Lights flickered on in tunnels that had been dark for centuries. Machines hummed to life. Doors that had been sealed since before most humans were born slowly opened. The galaxy believed humanity was weak. They thought humans were peaceful traders and idealistic diplomats. They saw Earth's small defense fleet and laughed. How could such a young species pose any threat? They did not know about the Shadow Fleet. Humanity remembered its history. It remembered wars that killed millions. It remembered empires that rose and fell. It remembered that peace was always temporary, and predators always came for the weak. So while humanity smiled and traded and signed treaties, it also prepared quietly, secretly, for 300 years. Ships that could bend light around themselves, becoming invisible. Weapons that could crack planets like eggs. Soldiers trained from birth to fight and win. All of it hidden. All of it waiting until now. Nari stood on the bridge of the flagship Silent Dawn. She was 41 years old, the youngest chief engineer in fleet history. Her mind worked faster than most computers. She had designed half the weapons on this ship herself. "Wake them all," she ordered. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency. Around her, the greatest warship ever built came fully alive. It was 3 kilometers long. It carried enough firepower to burn continents. And it was just one of many. Across human space, similar scenes played out. Hidden bases revealed themselves. Secret shipyards opened their doors. Millions of soldiers who had trained in darkness finally stepped into the light. The Shadow Fleet emerged like a nightmare from the void. Tejo arrived on Earth 2 days later. Yuna was returned to her grandparents. Hannah went straight to intelligence headquarters. Doyon was assigned to the Silent Dawn. Taiho walked into the United Earth Council chamber. Every leader on the planet watched him, either in person or through screens. He looked different than before. The calm was gone from his eyes. Something harder had taken its place. 3 days ago I watched our people die, Taiho began. I held a child while her mother was killed. I heard the screams of my colleagues as they burned. I saw the smile on Vareth's face as he murdered innocents. He paused. The chamber was completely silent. The Velen Dominion believes we are children. They believe we will cry and hide and accept their cruelty. They believe that because we chose peace, we are incapable of war. Taiho's hands gripped the podium. His knuckles turned white. They're wrong. Humanity did not choose peace because we were weak. We chose peace because we knew what we were capable of. We knew the monster that lives inside us. We chose to keep it sleeping. His voice grew colder. The Velen have woken the monster. They have murdered our children and mocked our grief. Now, they will learn what happens when humanity goes to war. He looked directly into the cameras. I am not here to ask for permission. The time for debate is over. I am here to tell you that we will respond. We will find every Velen military base, every warship, every soldier who raised a weapon against our people, and we will destroy them. This is not revenge. Revenge is emotion. This is justice. Cold, calculated justice. We will show the galaxy that humanity does not forget. We do not forgive. And we do not lose. President Park stood. The council has already voted. We are unanimous. Admiral Wujin will command our forces. Ambassador Taiho will lead our diplomatic response. Total war has been declared. Across the planet, people watched. Some cheered. Some wept. Some prayed. But all of them understood that the universe had changed forever. On the Silent Dawn, Admiral Wujin studied star maps with Nari. Red dots marked Velen military installations. There were hundreds of them. How long until we can strike? Wujin asked. The fleet will be fully assembled in 72 hours. All systems are operational. Crews are ready. Wujin nodded slowly. He had hoped to die peacefully, surrounded by his family. Now, he would die in battle, surrounded by fire. It was a soldier's fate. The Velen have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years, he said quietly. They have never lost a war. They do not know what defeat feels like. Nari looked at him. They will learn? Yes, we will teach them. The Admiral turned to face his crew. Men and women from every nation on Earth, all of them volunteers, all of them ready to die for humanity. My friends, we did not choose this war. We did not want this war. But war has come. The Velen believe we are weak because we dream of peace. They do not understand that our dreams of peace come from knowing the alternative. He straightened his uniform. Show them the alternative. Across human space, 17 fleets began to move. They flew in perfect silence, invisible to every sensor, heading toward Velen territory. No warnings were sent. No declarations made. Humanity had tried words for 300 years. Now they would speak a different language. Back on the silent dawn, Doeen sat alone in his quarters. He was still haunted by what he had seen on Harmony Prime. The faces of the dead visited him whenever he closed his eyes. But something else filled his heart now. Something hot and fierce. He had been a dreamer once, full of wonder at the stars. Now he understood the truth. The universe was beautiful, but cruel. And the only way to survive was to be crueler. He opened his personal log and began to write. They wanted to teach humanity a lesson. They will get their wish. But the lesson will not be the one they expected. We are about to show the galaxy what happens when you push humanity too far. We are about to show them why we kept our true strength hidden. We are about to show them fury. The ships flew on through the darkness, and the Velen Dominion, secure in its arrogance, had no idea what was coming. The first strike came without warning. Velen Command Station 12 was the largest military base in the Outer Territories. 50,000 soldiers lived there. 200 warships docked at its ports. It was considered untouchable. At exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time, 17 human ships appeared from nowhere. They had traveled invisible through Velen space for 3 days. No sensor had detected them. No patrol had spotted them. The attack lasted for minutes. Human weapons fired beams of light that cut through. Velen shields like paper. Missiles flew with minds of their own, seeking weak points and exploiting them. The Velen ships tried to fight back, but they were firing at ghosts. Human vessels flickered in and out of visibility, never staying in one place long enough to be hit. When it was over, Command Station 12 was a cloud of debris. All 50,000 Velen soldiers were dead. Not a single human ship was lost. 16 similar attacks happened at the same moment across Velen territory. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. Admiral Wu Jin stood on the bridge. Of the silent dawn, reports came in from every strike. Team, success. Success, 17 targets destroyed. 0 human casualties. He felt no joy. Only cold determination. Send a message to the Velen Dominion, he ordered. Tell them this is the beginning. Tell them to surrender now, and we will show mercy. Tell them to refuse, and we will show none. The message was sent. The response came within hours. High Sovereign Voroth appeared on screens across the galaxy. His face twisted with rage. Humanity thinks this changes anything. You destroyed a few stations. We have thousands. We have 10,000 years of war behind us. We crushed species far greater than you. Your tricks will not save you. He leaned toward the camera. For every Velen you kill, we will kill 10,000 humans. For every station you destroy, we will burn a human colony. Continue this war, and we will erase your species from existence. The transmission ended. Teho watched from his office on Earth. Hannah stood beside him. He's afraid, Hannah said quietly. He hides it behind anger, but I can see it. He did not expect this. Fear will make him dangerous, Teho replied. Wounded animals are the most deadly. What do we do? Teho turned to face her. We hit them so hard and so fast that they cannot wound us. We give them no time to think, no time to plan. We break their military so completely that surrender becomes their only option. And if they do not surrender, his eyes were cold. Then we break everything else. The war continued. Human fleets struck deeper into Velen territory every day. They attacked military targets with surgical precision. They avoided civilian areas when possible. But they showed no hesitation and no mercy to soldiers. Do-Yan served on the Silent Dawn during 12 major engagements. He watched human weapons tear Velen ships apart. He heard the cheers of his crewmates when another enemy base fell. He tried to cheer with them, but something troubled him. On the 14th day of the war, the Silent Dawn captured a damaged Velen transport ship. Among the prisoners was a young Velen soldier. He could not have been older than 18 in human years. Do-Yan was assigned to guard the prisoners. He watched the young Velen through the transparent wall of the holding cell. The alien sat alone, arms wrapped around his knees, eyes staring at nothing. "You destroyed my family's ship," the Velen said suddenly. His voice was quiet and broken. "My father served on Command Station 8. My brothers served on the defense fleet. They are all dead." Do-Yan said nothing. "We were told humans were weak, soft, that the war would be over in days." The young Velen laughed bitterly. "They lied to us. They always lie to us." For the first time, Do-Yan saw the enemy as something other than monsters. This was not the face of evil. This was the face of a boy who had lost everything. But then Do-Yan remembered Harmony Prime. He remembered the bodies. He remembered Varith's smile. He remembered Yuna crying for her mother. "Your people started this," Do-Yan said. His voice was harder than he expected. "Your High Sovereign murdered innocents. Children, diplomats who came in peace. Now you pay the price." Young Velen looked up. "I did not choose this war. Neither did we."
I walk do where do I not do I walk do I walk do walk do what 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 I do 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 I should do I.
He did not sleep that night. Hannah ran operations from a secret base on Earth's moon. Her intelligence network had grown beyond anything she imagined. Agents infiltrated Velen communication systems. Spies turned enemy officers into informants. Every secret the Dominion tried to keep became known to humanity within hours. She worked 18 hours a day. She ate when she remembered. She slept when her body collapsed. One of her agents asked her once if she felt guilt. Hannah looked at him with empty eyes. "They killed everyone I loved on that station," she said. "My friends, my mentor, the boy I was going to marry. He was going to propose after the ceremony. I found the ring in his pocket when they recovered his body." She turned back to her screens. "I feel nothing but purpose." The galaxy watched the war with growing terror. Species that had dismissed humanity as weak now sent quiet messages of support. They offered supplies, information, safe harbor. They had all suffered under Velen arrogance. They all hoped someone would finally stand against the Dominion. Other species simply begged not to be next. Human ambassadors assured them that humanity had no interest in empire. They only wanted justice. Some believed them. Others remembered that humans fought like something old and hungry. Something that had been waiting in the darkness for a very long time. Wujin met with Tai Ho aboard the Silent Dawn after the first month of war. The admiral looked tired. The weight of death pressed on him. "We are winning," Wujin said. "Their fleet is half destroyed. Their outer territories have fallen. At this rate, we will reach their core worlds within 2 months." Taiho nodded. "And our losses?" "Light. Surprisingly light. Our technology is better. Our tactics are better. Our soldiers fight like they have nothing to lose." "Because we do not," Taiho replied. "We fight for survival. They fight for pride." "There is a difference," Wujin was quiet for a moment. "Taiho, I need to ask you something. How far are we willing to go?" As far as necessary, and if necessary means becoming monsters. Taiho stood and walked to the window. Stars filled the darkness outside. Somewhere out there, the Velen homeworld waited. When I was young, my grandmother told me stories about our ancestors. About the wars they fought. About the terrible things they did to survive. She said humanity carries a wolf inside its heart. Most days, we keep it chained. We build civilizations and write poetry and dream of peace. But the wolf is always there, waiting. He turned to face Wujin. The Velen released our wolf. Now they will face it. And I will not call it back until they can never threaten us again. Good on, understood. He did not agree, but he understood. The war continued. Human fleets pushed deeper into Velen space. Victory followed victory. The dominion that had ruled for 10,000 years began to crack, and in the darkness of space, both sides prepared for what would come next. The breaking point approached, and when it arrived, the galaxy would never forget what humanity was capable of. High Sovereign Voreth stood in his war chamber. Holographic maps showed the collapse of his empire. Red zones marked territories lost to humanity. They spread like blood across the display. His generals stood in silence. They had no good news. They had not had good news for weeks. How? Voreth demanded. How is this possible? They are children. Infants in the galactic community. We have ruled for 10,000 years, no one answered. Yet our fleets outnumber them. Our soldiers outnumber them. Our resources outnumber them. Yet we lose. Every day we lose. Admar Theron, his most trusted commander, stepped forward. High sovereign human technology exceeds our own. Their tactics are unpredictable. They fight without rules, without honor codes, without the ceremonies of proper warfare. They strike from shadows and vanish before we can respond. Then we change the rules, Voreth growled. They care about their people. They protect their civilians. That is their weakness. Theron hesitated. High Sovereign, attacking civilian targets would violate the ancient codes. The other species would condemn us. Other species already hate us. They send supplies to humans in secret. They celebrate our defeats in whispers. Ratha's eyes burned with fury. If the galaxy wants to see monsters, we will show them monsters. Target the human colonies. All of them. Burn them to ash. High Sovereign, consider carefully. If we do this, do it. The order went out. 12 hours later, Velen strike forces appeared above 3 human colony worlds. New Sol was a peaceful planet. 5 million people lived there. Farmers, teachers, families who had left Earth seeking a quiet life among the stars. They had no military bases, no weapons factories, only homes and schools and hospitals. The Velen ships opened fire without warning. Orbital bombardment turned cities to craters. Missiles fell like rain. Plasma weapons scorched the atmosphere. Within an hour, 4 million people were dead. The survivors fled into the wilderness, hunted by Velen ground troops. The same horror repeated on 2 other worlds. Colony 12. Sunrise Station. Names that would become synonymous with tragedy. 11 million humans died in a single day. Taiho received the news aboard the Silent Dawn. He sat alone in his quarters, staring at the reports. Images of burning cities filled his screen. Casualty numbers climbed higher with every update. His hands began to shake. Not from fear. Not from grief. From something darker. Hannah entered without knocking. Her face was wet with tears, but her voice was steady. The galaxy is watching, she said. Other species are sending condolences. Some are offering sanctuary for survivors. Condolences, Taiho repeated. The word sounded hollow. Taiho, what do we do? He did not answer immediately. He looked at his hands. They had stopped shaking. A terrible calm settled over him. We respond, he said quietly. He stood and walked to the door. Call the senior staff. All of them now. 20 minutes later, Taiho stood before humanity's military leadership. Admiral Wujin, Chief Engineer Nari, Intelligence Director Hannah, a dozen other commanders and strategists. They waited in silence. "The Velen have murdered 11 million of our people," Taiho began. His voice was flat, emotionless. "Civilians. Children. People who had nothing to do with this war. Vorath believes this will break us. He believes we will beg for peace." He looked at each person in the room. "He's wrong. We will not beg. We will not negotiate. We will respond in kind." Nari stepped forward. "Ambassador, what exactly are you asking?" Taiho turned to her. "You designed weapons we swore never to use, world crackers, sun killers, devices that make nuclear bombs look like fireworks. I am asking you to deploy them." The room fell completely silent. Wujin spoke first. "Taiho, those weapons exist for deterrence only. Using them would make us no better than the Velen." "The Velen burned our colonies," Taiho replied. "They murdered our children. They laughed while our people died. Do not speak to me about being better. If we use those weapons, the galaxy will fear us forever." "Good." The word came out like a knife. "Fear is the only language Vorath understands. He must learn that attacking our civilians brings consequences he cannot imagine." Hannah watched the exchange with careful eyes. She understood something the others did not. Taiho was not angry. Anger burns hot and fades. This was colder. This was the calm of a man who had made peace with becoming something terrible. Nara spoke again. "If I deploy the world crackers, billions could die. Valen civilians who had no say in this war, children who never raised a weapon." "Did Vorath consider our children?" Taiho asked. "Did he spare our civilians? That does not make it right." "No, it does not." Taiho's voice finally showed emotion. "Pain. Deep and terrible pain. Nothing about this is right. But I did not start this war. I tried for 30 years to build peace. I believed in cooperation. I believed in understanding. And the Velen answered my belief with fire." He walked to the window and stared at the stars. "They wanted to teach humanity a lesson. They have succeeded. The lesson is that the universe does not reward kindness. The universe rewards strength. We showed strength, and they killed our civilians in response. Now we show them what true strength looks like." Wujin approached him. "If we do this, there is no going back. We will be changed forever. We are already changed." Taiho turned to face his old friend. "I held a child while her mother was murdered. I watched my colleagues burn. I have seen things that will haunt me until I die. The man I was before Harmony Prime is gone. Whatever remains will do what is necessary to protect our people." The vote was taken. It was not unanimous. Some refused. They could not cross that line. Taiho accepted their resignation with respect, but the majority agreed. The weapons were deployed. 3 days later, humanity's response arrived at the Velen Fortress worlds. These were not civilian planets. They were military strongholds, armed to the teeth, home to the elite forces of the Dominion. The world crackers activated. Entire planets split apart from within. The forces that held matter together simply stopped working. Solid ground became dust. Oceans evaporated instantly. Atmospheres scattered into nothing. In the span of hours, 4 fortress worlds ceased to exist. 60 million Velen. Soldiers died. The galaxy watched in horror. Vorath received the news in his throne room. For the first time in his long life, he felt something he did not recognize. Fear. Human ships appeared at the edge of Velen core territory. They made no demands. They sent no messages. They simply waited, weapons powered and ready. A transmission reached Vorath from Taiho. "You burned our colonies. We have erased your fortresses. You killed 11 million innocents. We have killed 60 million soldiers. The math is not equal yet, High Sovereign, but I am merciful. I offer you a choice." Taiho's face filled the screen. His eyes were cold and distant. "Surrender now, completely and unconditionally. Face justice for your crimes. Allow humanity to dictate terms of peace." He paused. "Refuse. And watch as we continue to your homeworld. Watch as we turn everything you have built to dust. Your choice, Vorath. Your choice." The transmission ended. Voreth sat in darkness, surrounded by advisors who had no advice to give. For 10,000 years, Velen Dominion had never surrendered. Never. Not once. But they had never faced. Humanity before the High Sovereign looked at the reports. His military was broken. His allies had abandoned him. His people lived in terror of human weapons. And still, he could not say the word his pride would not let him. He ordered his remaining fleets to defend the homeworld. He called for every citizen to take up arms. He prepared for a final stand, and in the darkness of space, human ships began to move. The breaking point had arrived. What came next would determine the fate of two species, and only one would survive. The Velen homeworld was called Valeris. It was ancient and beautiful. Mountains of purple crystal rose toward twin suns. Cities of gold and silver sprawled across vast continents. For 10,000 years, it had been the heart of the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. Now human ships filled its sky. Admiral Wujin commanded the final assault from the bridge of the Silent Dawn. His fleet surrounded the planet in a sphere of steel and fire. Velen defense ships fought with desperate courage. They knew they were dying for their world. They died anyway. The battle lasted 3 days. Human losses were significant for the first time. The Velen fought like cornered animals. They used everything they had. Suicide attacks, forbidden weapons, traps hidden in the debris of their own ships. They made humanity pay for every kilometer of space. But it was not enough. It could never be enough. On the third day, the last Velen warship exploded in a flash of light. The sky above Valeris belonged to humanity. Taiho watched from his quarters aboard the Silent Dawn. He had not slept in days. He barely ate. His eyes were sunken, and his hands trembled slightly. The cost of war weighed on him like a physical burden. Hannah entered quietly. Ground forces are ready to deploy. Intelligence suggests Voreth is in the central palace. He refused evacuation. He wants to die on his throne. Oh, then we will grant his wish, Taiho said. The world crackers are charged. We could destroy Valeris from orbit. End this quickly. Taiho shook his head. No, Voreth does not deserve a quick death. And his people do not deserve destruction. This was his war, not theirs. We will take him alive if possible. Dead if necessary. But Valeris will survive. Hannah studied him with careful eyes. You still believe in mercy? I believe in justice. Mercy and justice are not always the same thing. The ground assault began at dawn. Human soldiers landed in waves, supported by drone swarms and armored vehicles. Velen ground forces fought back with everything they had. Streets became battlefields. Buildings became fortresses. Dajan was among the soldiers who stormed the central palace. He had requested combat duty weeks ago. He needed to see this through with his own eyes. The palace was enormous, built to celebrate Velen power. Gold statues of ancient sovereigns lined the halls. Paintings showed centuries of conquest and glory. Doyan barely noticed any of it. His focus was forward. Always forward. They found Voreth in the throne room. The High Sovereign sat on his golden throne. Dressed in ceremonial armor, guards surrounded him, weapons raised. They numbered perhaps 50 against hundreds of human soldiers. Surrender, the human commander ordered. This is your final chance, Voreth laughed. It was a bitter, broken sound. Surrender. 2 children, to a species that was living in caves while we built empires? I would rather die. That can be arranged. The firefight lasted less than a minute. Velen guards fell one by one. They fought bravely, but bravery alone cannot stop bullets. When the smoke cleared, Voreth remained on his throne. He had not moved. He had not drawn a weapon. He simply sat there, watching his world end. A human soldier stepped forward and placed restraints on the High Sovereign's wrists. You're under arrest for crimes against humanity, the soldier said. You will face justice. Voreth looked at her with something like wonder. Justice. You speak of justice after what you have done? You destroyed our fortress worlds. You killed millions of our soldiers. You started this war, the soldier replied. You murdered our diplomats. You burned our colonies. Everything that followed is on your hands. They took him away. The war was over. 3 days later, Tejo stood before Vorath on the bridge of the Silent Dawn. The High Sovereign was bound and guarded. His armor had been removed. He looked small without it. Old and tired, Tejo studied the face of his enemy. He searched for the monster he had seen on Harmony Prime, the creature that smiled while innocence burned. But all he saw was a defeated old man. Why? Tejo asked simply. Vorath looked up. Why what? Why start this war? Humanity was no threat to you. We wanted trade, cooperation, peace. We asked for nothing but a seat at the table. The High Sovereign was silent for a long moment. Because you were growing too fast, he finally said. 300 years among the stars, and already you spread across dozens of worlds. Your technology advanced faster than any species in history. Your people bred like insects. In another 1,000 years, you would have outnumbered us. So you decided to destroy us before we became a threat? Prevention is always easier than cure. Tejo nodded slowly. You were afraid of us. I was realistic. Young species must be kept in their place. If they grow too strong, they become dangerous. This is the way of the universe. You were wrong. Tejo's voice was quiet but hard. We were never a threat. We admired your civilization. We wanted to learn from you. We dreamed of partnership, not competition. And now? Tejo did not answer immediately. He walked to the window and stared at the stars. Now we are what you made us. You showed us that the universe is cruel. You taught us that mercy is weakness. You turned dreamers into killers, and poets into soldiers. He turned back to face Vorath. You wanted to see what humanity becomes when pushed. This is what we become. Remember that in whatever comes after. The execution was not public. Humans did not celebrate death. Vorath was brought to a small room. He was given a final meal, which he did not eat. He was asked for final words, which he did not speak. The injection was quick and painless. The High Sovereign of the Velen Dominion died quietly, alone. Far from his throne, humanity recorded the moment but did not broadcast it. Some things were not meant to be spectacle. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy reshaped itself. The Velen Dominion collapsed into fragments. Some worlds surrendered peacefully. Others fought briefly before accepting defeat. None posed a real threat. Humanity did not claim their territory. They did not install puppet governments. They simply demanded peace and watched to ensure it held. Do-Yon returned to Earth. He tried to resume normal life. He failed. The things he had seen would not let him go. He began to write instead. He recorded everything. The massacre at Harmony Prime, the rise of the Shadow Fleet, the terrible weapons. The final battle. Someone must remember, he told Hannah when she asked why. Someone must tell the truth. Not the glorious version. Not the heroic version. The real version. So that future generations understand the cost. Hannah returned to her intelligence work, but something had changed in her. The fire that drove her during the war had cooled. She found herself building bridges instead of burning them. Former enemies became reluctant allies. Old wounds began to heal. She never found peace, but she found purpose. Wujin retired again. This time he did not fish. He sat in his garden and thought about the millions who had died, human and Velen alike. He wrote letters to the families of fallen soldiers. Every single one. It took him years. Nari dismantled the terrible weapons. She destroyed the plans. She erased the knowledge from every database. Some things should not exist. Some tools are too dangerous to keep. We built them because we had to, she told her team. Now we unbuild them because we must. Let no one ever use these again. Tejo stood before the reformed Galactic Senate 1 year after the war ended. Every species watched. Every world listened. They wanted to know what humanity would do with its power. He spoke simply. Humanity did not want this war. We came to the stars hoping to find friends. We found enemies instead. We were forced to fight. We were forced to kill. We were forced to become something we never wanted to be. He paused. But the war is over. The threat is ended. And now we must choose what comes next. His eyes swept across the assembled delegates. We choose peace. Again, despite everything. We choose to believe that the universe can be better than it has shown us. We choose to rebuild, to heal, to grow. But let this be known across every star and every world. Humanity will never be victims again. We will extend our hand in friendship to all who want it. We will trade fairly and keep our word. But if anyone attacks our people, there will be no negotiation. No treaty, no mercy. His voice hardened. Only fire and silence. Remember Harmony Prime. Remember what followed, and choose wisely. The Senate chamber was completely still. Then, slowly, delegates began to stand. One by one, species by species. They rose in acknowledgement, not quite respect, not quite fear. Something between. Taiho nodded once and stepped down. Outside, stars burned in the eternal darkness. Somewhere out there, new species were being born. New civilizations were rising. New dreams were taking shape. Humanity would meet them someday. They would extend their hand in friendship, just as they always had. But the wolf inside would never sleep again. It would watch. It would wait. And if anyone ever threatened human children again, it would wake. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and no one would forget.